It's witchcraft.
It's 4:20 a.m. Hi, and welcome to episode 18 of the Stoned Witches Hour. We're Layla and Chelle, two best friends on opposite coasts of the USA, and each week we get together to smoke weed and scare each other silly with stories of haunted happenings, ghoulish events, and terrifying true crime. I'm Layla, representing the West Coast.
I'm high as usual, and Shell, and from the East Coast.
Hi, my high friend. How are you today?
Today, I got a new batch of Jasmine Silver Haze.
How is that smoking? How does that Jasmine Silver Haze taste?
Delicious, delicious. Now, you told me once that it was harder to grow. Is that correct?
Sativas, yes, are typically harder to grow, yes, on the whole.
But this very tasty, not flowery, but not fruity, but not citrusy, kind of like everything good all wrapped up into one.
Damn, why can't you mail me some of that? I love a good tasting weed. I don't even care what the THC percentage is. If it's got a nice taste to it, I love that.
And it's a very smooth smoke too, which sometimes there's like that cough to get off kind of smoke. This is more like that smooth.
Silky,
Yeah.
goes down
Yeah.
real nice. Oh, I
Yeah.
love those. I love those. I do tend to prefer generally hybrids, but sativas are so good usually. And the silver hazes I really like personally.
This Jasmine Silver Haze, top notch. Good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff. I wonder if the jasmine is what gives it that like all around flavor.
Possibly. I'm not familiar with that particular cultivar, but I am familiar with the hazes and the silver hazes, and they do tend to have a nice flavor. But jasmine sounds like it should taste good.
Oh, it does. It does. You'll have to come visit and have some because it's good
Oh my
stuff.
gosh, yes, for sure. When you come out here, I'm going to have a charcuterie board of buds for you to try. And I fully expect the same when I come visit you in Salem. We're going to just
Exactly.
have a sampler platter of a little bit of everything and try it all. So.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, it's very good. And I'm actually still working off my 8/8 for 288 deal. Like that was such the greatest deal ever on the planet.
That is a nice deal. That is a nice deal.
Quality stuff. And that's the best part. It's not just like junk weed on sale. Quality
That's
stuff.
right. Yeah, I did get a batch from the gas station, my favorite delivery guys. I did get a batch of super cheap MIDI. It was just a whole bunch of mixed mids, they called it. So it's just a bunch of mixed mid-range, mid-quality cannabis.
Middies. When was the
MIDIs,
last time we said middies?
right? Well, now everything has a name, so we don't have to call it dirt weed or, middies or
Hydro.
hydro or dank. We don't have to call it dirt, middies, or dank anymore. Everything has a name. We can call it what its actual name is. So you don't hear that so much. But I guess they just had a bunch of buds left over that they just kind of dumped in one big pot. And so they were selling it very cheap. So it was middies for 50 for a half. So we got some of that.
Ooh.
Yeah, nice. It's a
Ooh.
really nice deal. And it's a good quality smoke. So, a nice daytime, just want to get through the workday kind of smoke. Good
Didn't we
solid
use
high.
didn't we used to call that a salad?
Yes, we did. When we would kind of dump what was left of all our little bags in a jar, and then when you
It
were
was a
out, that's the
salad.
go-to jar. Yeah, that was the mixed salad. That always got me high as fuck, higher than
Yeah.
anything else. And I'm smoking in that. I'm also smoking on a freshly cured batch of homegrown, my Gorilla cookies, my autoflower Gorilla cookies, and those are
Ooh.
fabulous. So good. Now it says that they have 27% THC in the description, and I have not gotten mine tested. I would honestly say it's probably higher. I can't smoke these. I'm going to smoke a little bit while we're recording, but then the rest is going to go back to my mixed MIDI
How do
because
you test it? How can you as Layla growing at your house, home grower, sitting in your living room, how do you test the percentage?
I know that there are places that you can send your weed to. It does cost. It's usually not something that I'm going to want. I don't know what the cost is, to be honest. I'd have to look it up. But I know you can send it to different places here. And I do think that there are some kits that you can get to test it at home. They're around $100, 50 to $100 each. I don't know how accurate they are. It's
Oh,
actually
wow.
that might be something that I would be interested in trying. I might grab a couple different kits and maybe check into a dispensary and see if I could have it tested. But just from my experience, I would say that it feels like it's a higher, it kicks me right between the eyes, kind of like a 34%, 32, 34% THC, that I get from a dispensary would. So the description says it's about 27% THC, and I would have to say it feels like it's higher. So that's more of my nighttime, really want to relax, chill out kind of weed.
Melt into your bed.
Melt into the bed. And it tastes so good, though. It's hard not to reach for it in the middle of the day. Because, my mixed middies are nice. They taste great. It's fine. But it's nothing to write home about. But, these gorilla cookies, so delicious. Me personally, my head is racing. My mind goes a million miles a minute. And my body's just kind of more like normal to lazy. So when, so when I look for a weed, I kind of want to balance that out, particularly during the daytime. I want something that's going to slow my brain down so that I can focus and get work done and not be constantly thinking about 10 bajillion, oh, squirrel kind of thing.
Right.
And I want something to keep my body energized, but not too buzzy and not too relaxed, so I want something to kind of balance me out. And this is one of those weeds that does a great job of that.
Nice.
So, yeah. Who wouldn't want that for a daytime smoke? Just kind of focus, feel good, feel happy, and not be pinging from thing to thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am good. I'm smoking the good stuff today, as usual. Just living the dream here. I'm waiting for a little bit warmer weather, but you take what you can get at this time of year. It is beginning of May in the Northeast, and you know how the beginning of May can be. It can be like 40 one day and 75 the next day, and my allergies are exploding, folks.
It's kind of like that over here. It's 73 one day and 86 the next. It's just
oh, poor you. Shush yourself.
Blue skies all the time. I love it. Okay, there was 1 or 2 clouds in the sky yesterday, so I can definitely tell spring is here. It's so great.
I'm laughing because you're from the Northeast. You know what I'm dealing with weather-wise here in the beginning of May. Like, it's treacherous. So I'm at the store, and I do this to my boyfriend all the time. Do you know that all winter long they've had a big display of bathing suits? And I walk into this particular store and I'm like, hey, need a bathing suit? Why? It is cold. I have a Carhartt sweatshirt on. I have socks in a foot heater on. And you've got a bathing suit display in the Northeast in the beginning of May.
That
Why
never
are they
made
evil?
sense to me.
Evil, I say. They're taunting me.
It didn't make sense until I moved here because I do want a bathing suit right now. Everything kind of matches.
Come here because there's a store that has like a whole freaking display.
Yeah, in the Northeast, that never made sense, especially because in the first week of May, you could have your heater running in the morning and then need to open your windows and possibly turn on your air conditioner in the afternoon. You're going to get it all.
Yeah. And that, and unfortunately, as fun as that can be, it creates an allergy explosion. So if I'm sounding stuffy and allergy ridden, I am like, we have a white car and it's turning yellow as we speak.
'Tis the season.
Everybody talks about this dry heat. Where is it? Because it is sure as hell is not in Massachusetts.
No, it's out here in the desert. Right here.
Boo.
I love it. No, so it is gorgeous here and I am loving it. So first week of May, gotta love it. We just had Beltane. This is a fabulous time of year for pretty much all of the United States, I think, for the most part. We're all happy to get out of the dark and start enjoying the outdoors and enjoying nature a little more.
This is the time of year where, we just did our Beltane episode. Beltane just passed. And, we talked about how we always camped for Beltane. This is one of those years where I would have been one of those camping for Beltane. Absolutely. First week of May. And I'm like, all right, guys, how about we wait another like couple weeks? Let's
Yeah.
wait another couple weeks before we go camping again.
This has also been a pretty historic week just not too long ago for another reason. Another state has started legal marijuana sales, New Jersey, on the 21st, which is so dumb. Why didn't they do it on 420? But the day after 420, New Jersey rolled out legal marijuana and had booming sales from what I heard.
They probably just didn't want some like I could see the government's mind working here. They're like, oh my God, if we do this on 420, there's going to be like some like mass explosion of people. They were like probably thinking riots and stuff when all these stoners are just like, dude, why couldn't you have done this yesterday?
I don't think they were prepared for how calm and orderly a stoner line could be.
I don't think they get the fact that there wasn't like, what did they think? I-95 is just going to be shut down due to traffic. What's happening?
Maybe they thought if they did it on 420, the universe would just implode and
Probably.
So they did it on 421. So good for them for actually starting the legal sales. So they do not have home grows available in New Jersey, which is a big thumbs down. Boo, New Jersey. Home grows should be part of any legalization package.
No.
And I frown upon them.
I think I know why they don't have home grows in New Jersey. And that kind of is going to lead me into what my story for today is.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that the reason that they don't allow homegrowns in New Jersey is because of the Jersey Devil.
Wait, what is the Jersey Devil, like a cop or something? Like, what's the Jersey Devil?
The Jersey Devil.
Wait,
like this is like
mentioned the Jersey Devil before. How does
I have, and I can't
on.
for the life of me believe that you don't even know what the Jersey Devil is. Like that baffles my mind.
Okay, I do remember now that you have mentioned the Jersey Devil to me and promised to tell me what it is. So, and how do they prevent people from growing weed?
Because you don't want to be outside and come across this mofo.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Bad news. Like this is where you don't want to be out tending to your plants after dark and run into this guy.
Is this another one of those lantern fish? We put the orbs out so we can steal your soul, like in our last episode?
This is a cryptid. Absolutely.
Oh, another evil cryptid.
Yep. In episode 17, we talked about the Puckwudgies of Massachusetts.
Yeah, they corrupted my beloved orbs and used them to lure people to their death.
Yeah. Well, the Jersey Devil ain't much better.
Oh, no. Oh, figures.
It really isn't. And we're not talking about the hockey team here, folks. The Jersey Devils, bad. Just as bad as the Jersey Devil itself. No, I'm just kidding. Love hockey. Not so much the Jersey Devils. Go Rangers. So anyhow, the Jersey Devil.
Okay, again, just to be clear for my stoned brain, the Jersey Devil, the cryptid, not the Jersey Devil, the hockey team.
Correct. Cryptid.
Okay. All right,
we're going down the cryptid route.
Cryptid.
So
okay.
There is a forest in South Jersey called Pine Barrens. And this is kind of where this Jersey Devil has originated from. The origin of the legend is that there was a resident named Jane Leeds, known as Mother Leeds. We're talking a couple hundred years ago. This was obviously not something recent. She was, we talked about Beltane, talk about someone in the Beltane spirit. So she had 12 kids.
Oh, nice. So she kept the Beltane spirit in her heart constantly.
Right. She kept it in her heart constantly.
That's what they call it now. I'm sure that's not everywhere she kept it.
Imagine having 12 kids. Like, I only got 2 eyes and 2 hands, man.
I would not like to imagine that. Thank you.
Mother Leeds ends up finding out she's pregnant for the 13th time.
Oh, the 13th child. Oh, always a good... Well, I guess that wasn't always a good omen.
Not in this story. Not in this story. So she's pissed because she's pregnant again. So she cursed the child in a fit of rage and frustration.
Oh, yeah, because it's the kid's fault and not the dude who didn't wrap it.
Right. You're still getting booty on the regular, but you're pissed at the kid and go curse it. But
right?
She did. And her curse in frustration was her crying that the child would be the devil.
Ridiculous. She should have gone to see the local witch and been like, hey, but they had probably burned the local witch at the stake the summer before. So, poor Mother Leeds was shit out of luck. Anyway.
Pretty much. So, of course, I wasn't there. I wasn't around in 1735, but the story goes that, on a dark and stormy night, she goes into labor. Back then, a lot of the townswomen or your closest female relatives or what have you are there. They're helping. They gather around. So this 13 child is born, and the minute it comes out, it's normal, but then it starts changing, and its feet turn into hooves. It has like what they can't tell if it's a goat head or a horse head. It begins growing bat wings and ends up growing a forked tail. The child starts growling and screaming.
That sounds awful.
It flew up the chimney and headed into the pines.
So the poor baby was born normal, but because of the curse, it like transformed into like this horrible disfigured thing and flew out the chimney.
Now, some people say that Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch and that the child's father was actually the devil himself.
As one does.
And some say that there was a clergyman that tried to exorcise the creature from Pines Barren. But basically, this 13th child turned into like what they considered like this devil creature.
Wow. So it flew out the chimney and went to the woods in the Pine Barrens?
Went into the Pine Barrens, and it's just kind of been there. Again, 1735. So, years go by, people seem to see this thing, encounter this thing. It supposedly will kill you. Again, like the Pukwudgie, take your soul, eat your soul, that whole bit.
No shit. So like if you see it in the Pine Barrens, it's going to like kill you and eat your soul?
It's not a good thing to see the Jersey Devil.
No,
really.
It doesn't sound like it.
A lot of people in the legends and the stories, the ghost stories and such, actually describe it as a monster.
Horse head, bat wings, goat hooves. Well, it sounds like it's a monster.
Yeah.
Not pleasant.
Now, you can actually find it listed, not just the Jersey Devil, but you can find it listed as the Leeds Devil or the Devil of Leeds, named after the family, ultimately. His family name. How
he
cute.
Kept the family name. Okay. So have people had encounters with this thing?
Yeah, there was encounters all through the late 1700s, all through the 1800s, and actually they're early 1900s. But there has been a group recently, as recently as 2013, that had gone down there again, kind of like a local paranormal cryptid searchy group. And you hear of these people that have these encounters, and I watched some of these like quote unquote interview videos, and I believe these people that they saw it, that just looking at them talk and listening to them describe what they saw, like you believe them.
So they're very convincing. They definitely, you can tell that they're relaying something they actually saw.
Yeah. So this group goes down 2013, and we've experienced this before. We've talked about this in other episodes. Going into the woods, and even though you know where you are and you aren't far away from a road or a path, you just instantly get lost and are walking in circles.
Yeah, like that Blair Witch in the woods, a Blair Witch phenomena in the woods. Absolutely. Yeah.
So these folks went in there and very quickly lost their sense of direction, couldn't find the right way, felt like they were being circled from above, almost like by a bird.
Ooh, like something was like trailing them from the sky. Right. Ooh,
right.
Creepy.
But then like it came down and then was above them in the branches, and then came down to like ground level and was like following them on ground.
Oh, wow.
They were hearing growling noises. They were feeling almost euphoric. Like they felt, the only way they were able to describe it was they felt like there was something in the air that was almost making them feel kind of trippy.
Like someone was smoking out the woods and they were getting high, like a contact high.
Yeah, like if you were getting hotboxed in a car or something.
But in the woods. Wow.
But
weird.
in the woods, a very
Is that like
unnatural...
some sort of pheromone or something that this creature is supposed to secrete or something?
I don't know. But
Wow.
The group of people that went out felt like they were under some sort of euphoric spell.
Interesting.
And
Kind of like how some snakes mesmerize their prey.
yeah, yeah. And I guess how they kind of broke free of this entrapment, it was kind of near, they were kind of near a military base and there were helicopters flying low. A couple helicopters had gone by at a low altitude, and all of a sudden, no growling, no noise, nothing tracing them. So it was almost like the helicopters in the area kind of released the trance of the Jersey Devil, so to say. But again, these creatures aren't out looking to be like friendly.
Oh, so once they started flying helicopters around the area, no one saw it anymore?
Right. It went away. It went
Oh,
away.
wow.
Kind of like it got scared away, maybe. Might be a good way to describe it.
And it's because of this legend that they named the hockey team. They named the hockey team after this legend.
Yeah,
That's
actually.
wild.
Yeah, actually.
So the 13th bastard child of the devil.
Yeah.
That sounds like a hockey team.
Yeah. But that 13th child back in 1735, mother leads his baby. Never found any bones, never found a corpse. It was like that baby just vanished. It's not like these women were in hysteria or whatever and are misunderstanding a situation. I mean, the woman was pregnant, she gave birth, and there's no trace of the baby. You figure it out.
Wild.
It's definitely something that kind of sparks your mind, because it's not that just one person experienced this. This was a group of women that all had the same exact story.
Right. When they saw it born, they all saw the same thing and saw it leave, and there's no evidence of a body. And then people having these experiences in the woods, even decades later.
There has been sightings as far away as Delaware and Western Maryland. So, it's not necessarily just in South Jersey, but there's been times where they thought that it actually attacked a trolley car.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did it attack a trolley car? Isn't that like a train car or something?
I think like a trolley, I guess. Like a trolley, a trolley.
I
trolley
thought like
car.
a trolley was like something that ran on rails. I don't know. Like a trolley car runs on rails. Is that like the San Francisco trolleys?
Yeah. I think something like that. Yeah. I think something
It
like
attacked
that.
one of those?
Yeah. And the police actually shot at the creature to no effect. So the police have actually seen this. They have found hoof prints in the snow after there's been a sighting, and they're not dog prints. They're not like whatever. They were actual hoof prints. Some crazy shit. There's always people who are like, oh, we're going to be vigilantes and we're going to go find it and hunt it down.
Sure.
The Philadelphia Zoo at one point posted a $10,000 reward for the creature.
Wow. Pennsylvania throwing some reward money over for a New Jersey creature.
Yeah, that was like in I don't know, like the 60s, like 1960. Obviously to no avail. You're not going to go catch the devil creature with the red eyes. And
No, it's been evading people for this long. Why did they think someone would catch it now?
You might as well go pick up Bigfoot on your way and put him in the same cage,
Right, just put them next to each other.
But yeah, so in 1960, this zoo, they were going to do whatever it took to try to capture the Jersey Devil and bring it to them. It's kind of like one of those places animals don't like to go into that particular forest. People try to go in there and do like day hiking, say with their dog or something. The dogs just don't want to enter. If that doesn't tell you something right there, I don't know what does.
Yeah, as soon as animals are freaking out, that makes me feel all weird. I don't like it when animals start getting like tweaked out at nothing or seemingly nothing.
People have even described that there's no bird activity in that forest as well. If there are no birds and the dogs don't want to go in there, turn around, my friends.
Definitely eerie.
Turn
That
around.
is not a good place. Not a good place to go.
I don't understand why people would be like, hey, let's go check this out.
Hey, they wanted the reward. You offer people enough money, they'll go hunting for anything.
Yeah, but the thing is that like it wants to kill you.
Yeah, it wants to kill you. Why would you even go? I wouldn't go. That $10,000 is not enough of a reward for something that wants to eat you and then take your soul.
Now there was a guy,
maybe 20,000.
This guy in 2015, David Black, local resident. He's claiming that he has a photograph of the Jersey Devil. I've seen the photograph.
What do you think? Could it be?
It could be. It's kind of flying in the air, and it does kind of have that hoofy, goat facey, short wings look
Ooh.
to it. But I also feel like I don't know if I am technologically savvy enough to say it is not a doctored picture.
Okay, so there is some possible photographic evidence, though.
And when I was doing some of this research, where I found this, not that it necessarily matters, but it was a story on ABC News. So this is actually, a mainstream news that did a story on this. And again, this guy claims, I don't know, you can't tell. Like I said, you can't tell. It could be fake. It could be real. I don't know, but it's freaky nonetheless, because I believe the story. I believe in the cryptid itself. I'm just not sure I believe this particular guy.
Okay.
It's enough to make you go, what the hell is out in those woods? And I don't want to be out there alone, but thanks.
Are there any other photographs or any other types of evidence that it exists?
There are people throughout time. Like I said, this has been kind of a 300-year-old story. There are people that claim to have had pictures of them. A lot of them were debunked. You got to figure at the beginning of this story, photographs weren't even invented yet. But there's some from like the early to mid 1900s, but they were easily debunked by local authorities. I think a lot of people want to get a picture of it.
Kind of like Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not saying you didn't see it, but your picture is a bunch of shit kind of thing.
Right.
I kind of like the alien thing. I believe I saw an alien ship when I was in 9th grade, just like half my town. But I also am not claiming to have a picture of it either. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not negating that these people might have seen something. I'm just not, their pictures aren't necessarily 100% convincing. But this guy in 2015, it's a pretty darn good picture, but I'm not 100% sure because I just don't have that technological background.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Creepy story nonetheless. Even if there isn't any pictures, that type of legend, that local legend is always fascinating.
I like Bigfoot better because Bigfoot just wants to be left alone. These last couple cryptids I've talked about, like, they just want to like take your soul and kill you. And like, what the hell?
Yeah, these guys are mean. They're just really mean. That's not cool. These Sasquatches are friendly somewhat as long as you don't fuck around with them.
They just want to be left alone. But I guess when you call something a devil, you get what you expect you're going to get.
Yeah, that poor baby was cursed by its mother, and then the townspeople kind of cursed it and thinking that it was the child of the devil or whatever. It didn't ever have a chance. More than likely, it was just some poor deformed baby, and they were just...
When you think about that time period back in the 1700s, that's exactly what it probably was. Unfortunately, it was probably a baby with some deformity. You know what I'm saying? And it got
the
turned
family
into,
didn't want to begin with, and
right, and it
got turned into a big story.
It sounds good and it sounds interesting, but is this really just a child with a deformity that got twisted and turned into something?
More than likely.
Or is it really the child of Satan who was born in frickin' rural New Jersey?
Yeah, very interesting local legend for sure. And I probably never know what started it, but I think your assessment is probably spot on.
I definitely think that at some point we really need to go and check out for ourselves to see if we find the Jersey Devil.
Oh, Chelle, you and your dangerous trips. I don't know. That one.
How bad could it be?
Well, getting murdered and your soul eaten bad. That's how bad.
Yeah, but that's what you're there for. You always make that stuff work out somehow in the end. I come out with a great idea and you somehow save us in the end.
How is it that you always come up with these crazy ideas and I somehow end up
and saving my ass? I don't know. You're good at it.
We're a good team. You get us into trouble. I help get us out of trouble.
And it makes for fun stuff.
It does make for fun stuff.
So yeah, definitely the Jersey Devil. Check it out. Pine Barrens, South New Jersey. I'm down. I'm down. If anybody out there has any stories or experiences with the Jersey Devil, definitely share because I'm very intrigued by this. Even though Layla's never heard about it and I have heard of it before, I still don't think I know the whole grasp of the Jersey Devil story. So if anybody out there has any additional info, shoot us an email. I'd
Oh,
love
yeah.
to hear it.
I'd love to hear variations on that legend. That'd be very cool. And we could definitely go check it out as long as we then go see a Jersey Devils hockey game afterwards.
Right. Yay!
Yeah.
Love hockey.
That'd be so fun. And that would be scary enough, I think.
The hockey game?
The hockey game.
Yeah.
Do you remember, was a few episodes ago, you talked about the wedding where they had dosed a couple layers of the wedding cake with cannabis. And I was all concerned about whether the guests knew or not. And thankfully, in that case, everyone was aware that grandma was going to get high if she ate the wedding cake.
There was a recent news story. Yep.
You did hear, there was a recent news story where some aspiring chef bride, I guess, and her caterer cohort dosed all of the food without telling anyone. People got so high off of these edibles. She didn't even lightly dose them. She mega dosed everything. People were throwing up.
The bride and the caterer actually got arrested.
They asked the groom if he knew anything about it, and he apparently was completely clueless, totally stoned out of his mind, and just kind of blankly stared at them before he remembered the word no and got that out. Granted, they were all going to be fine, but that's still not something anyone should ever do.
You don't do anything of any nature, no matter what it is. You don't do anything of any nature like that against someone's personal choice, personal will.
What was she thinking? Why would she think that was a good idea? I don't get it.
You don't do that to people.
That's right.
Talk about pissing grandma off. You don't do that to your friends and family. That's low blow stuff.
And first of all, you don't dose people without their knowledge. You just don't do it. And second of all, it sounds like the levels that she dosed these people was insane. If you're going to put cannabis in a whole meal, you have to do it knowing that people are going to eat everything. And so you have to dose it accordingly and make sure you keep those levels very, very low. And it doesn't sound like they did that. I think these people got a very high dose of edible cannabis, and that's not something anyone should do, and definitely not unsuspecting.
Just because it's weed doesn't make it right.
Yep.
And I think that's the biggest thing that might teach them is that just because it's weed doesn't make it right. Because I read one article where the caterer was quoted as saying something like, "Oh, it's not like it was crack." Well, okay, You're right. It wasn't. Doesn't make it right.
Exactly. You're right. They're fine. They're all going to be fine. Chances are extremely high that every single one of those people will recover in a few hours and have zero effects.
Doesn't make it right.
Does not make it right. It still is subjecting people to something against their will. And it's not cool. Not good.
No. And that takes the fun level out of it, and it takes the legality out of it, and it takes the whole spirit of getting high and being high out of it.
Absolutely. And okay, so grandma's glaucoma was probably better. I'm not even going to joke about it. I'm not going to go there. Kind of like Mike Tyson. Here's another person that we were just recently talking about in the news.
What the fuck is with him?
I'm so conflicted over how I feel about this. Mike Tyson was recently in the news. We just talked about how he's very much on a journey to find Zen and peace in his life.
Obviously not. Obviously not.
Here he is on a plane, and you've got the troll of all trolls sitting behind him that Tyson is trying to be nice to, and this guy's being a complete and total airplane dick. You know the type. The one we all want to turn around and punch in the fucking head. And unfortunately, Tyson gave in to that impulse. I'm not going to say that guy deserved it because nobody deserves to get hit, but oh my God, I'm going to watch that video again, probably.
He took throat punch to a different level.
Yeah, you don't hit people. Come on. But come on. The levels that this guy was going to antagonize Tyson was terrible.
That is why you should be able to buy a little baggie of edibles from the stewardess on the airplane.
Yeah,
Just
you can't smoke and you can't even vape on a plane.
Give me the gummies.
One of the offerings on the plane should be edibles. If you can buy a mixed drink, You should also be able to buy THC chips, THC water, THC gummies, so that you don't punch the guy in the seat in front of you that just leaned his chair all the way back to your face. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. American Airlines, if you're out there, weed gummies.
Weed gummies. The Stoned Witches approve. We highly approve. Offer weed laced things on your flights. We'd fly more. So there's that. I don't know how to segue into my story.
What you talking about today? What are you talking about? Is it better than the Jersey Devil? What you got? What you
I don't
got
know. That's
today?
a really good local legend, but I'm going the true crime route today. So
Ooh.
we're going to talk about Rodney Alcala, sometimes known as the dating game killer.
Uh-oh. Does this have to do with the actual dating game show? Because I loved that show.
It does. This guy actually appeared on the dating game in the midst of his
Jesus.
killing spree.
Oh my God. Looking for dates? Imagine being on that show and then finding out after and being like, oh my God, I would have picked him. Glad I didn't.
Dun, dun, dun. Do you want to know if he won or not?
Are you going to tell me he won?
I'm not telling you. You have to wait and see. I'll tell you in a minute when I get there.
Such a tease.
Right? I try. All right. So we're going to start our story in 1968. And at this time, Rodney Alcala was living in the Hollywood area. He was a young 20-something guy, long curly hair, described as very handsome, and he was a photographer.
Ooh la la.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about a young woman, Morgan Rowan, 16, just a girl. She was living in Hollywood in 1968. Like many teenagers of that time, she spent a lot of her nights on the Sunset Strip, partying at the dance clubs that were for teenagers at that time. And in that crowd was Rodney Alcala, and he was known as very handsome, but everybody knew he was way older.
Ah. Kind of like the creepy old guy that's hot, but still old and creepy.
Right. Not like super old, but old enough that you know he shouldn't be there. He should be in a different type of club. Despite that, Morgan and her friends all kind of had a crush on this older photographer guy that was there.
Love that name, Morgan, by the way.
Right? Beautiful name. Morgan Rowan. So Morgan and her friends are dancing one night at these clubs, and this photographer, Rod, as he called himself at that time, offered them a ride to a local IHOP. They were going to go have some pancakes in the morning, as one does after hanging out all night. Instead of taking them to the IHOP, though, he took them to his apartment, which was a few blocks away on DeLongpre Avenue. And he told them that he was having a party. Come on up. So they did. And there were other people at the house, and the music was super loud. They were having a good time. Her friends got distracted and were kind of separated from her, probably on purpose. And Rodney Alcala grabbed this little 16-year-old girl, dragged her into his bedroom, and barred the door. He then proceeded to attack her.
Oh, jeez.
He hit her quite a bit. He bit her. He strangled her, and he raped her. And he strangled her to the point where she was blacking out and thought she was dying. Thankfully, her friends had noticed that she was missing and were frantically trying to find her. And when they found the locked door, they broke it down, only to see Rodney covered in blood standing over their friend who was unconscious on the floor. And he was just like, just take her. She says she remembers him saying, just take her, like she was nothing, like she was an object. And her friends grabbed her and took her out of the house. And she says they actually had to kind of hide from Rodney because he started looking for them. And she's throwing up blood in an alleyway as they're trying to hide her. It was horrific. But that was a time when if you told anyone that you were raped, a lot of times it was your fault.
Right,
and she did try to tell a police officer what had happened. She didn't even mention Rodney Alcala's name. And he said, well, in your short skirt and go-go boots, what did you expect?
You know, and that was kind of a shitty thing that was very common in that era.
Very much so. And so she decided not to press charges and even went so far as to hide most of her wounds and told people she'd been in a car accident to explain the ones she couldn't hide. So he didn't kill her. September of that year, he tried again.
With the same girl?
No.
Oh, I don't know if that's better or worse.
Right. So Rodney Alcala was seen luring an 8-year-old girl, Tally Shapiro, into his car as she was going to school.
So this asshole not even Not that adult women make it okay, but even when after kids,
He did. He did.
what a fucker.
His victims ranged in age from like 18 to 35. I known victims. This witness who saw him lure this little 8-year-old girl into his car followed them back to Alcala's apartment on de Longpre Avenue and then called the police because it just seemed suspicious to him. By the time police arrived, Alcala wouldn't answer the door, said he was getting out of the shower, and the police actually broke down the door and went in and saw him, again, covered in blood, with a little girl laying on the kitchen floor with blood all around her, and an iron bar, the same iron bar he had locked his door with. He had used that to try and strangle this little girl, and he had raped her and bitten her, same as he had done with Morgan Rowan.
Holy shit.
Despite the severity of the attack, Tali Shapiro did survive, but Alcala escaped out a back door and took off. He evaded arrest, and they had a warrant out for him. He fled to New York City and changed his name to John Berger, Berger, and he enrolled in NYU.
Oh my God.
He actually took photography lessons from Roman Polanski, oddly enough.
Shocker. 2 peas in a pod.
Right? Didn't his wife or daughter, wasn't she later killed by the Manson family?
Yeah, but then at one point he was actually, I think he's in jail right now, currently present day as well.
Right. So yeah, good company.
Yeah.
He's changed his name. He's in New York City. And while he's there in June of 1971, he raped and strangled Cornelia Crilly with her own stocking. She was a Trans World Airlines flight attendant, and he killed her in her own apartment. Later that summer, he became a camp counselor in New Hampshire, and he used the slightly different spelling of B-U-R, John Berger, B-U-R-G-E-R, as an alias. A couple of campers noticed his poster up at a local post office, showing that he was on the FBI's most wanted list, and they turned him in to authorities, and he was arrested, and he was extradited back to California to face charges on attacking and molesting Tali Shapiro.
And this is all before the dating game?
This is all before the dating game.
Wow, they didn't do the background checks on contestants like they do nowadays.
They absolutely did not. So he gets extradited back to California and he goes on trial, but Tali Shapiro's parents didn't want her to testify. They had actually taken her out of the country to Mexico. And it might have been the best thing for her because she does seem to be very well adjusted and collected and does not see herself as a victim. She's handling the situation very, very well. However, because she didn't testify, they couldn't get him on the abduction or the rape charges or attempted murder charges. He was only convicted of molestation, and he served 34 months.
Are 34 months? That's it?
That's it. He was released on parole and given permission to travel New York, where he again assumed the John Berger identity. And a New York woman, Ellen Hover, 23, disappeared July 15th, 1977. And on her calendar, she said she was meeting with John Berger. And so Rodney Alcala was questioned in her death and was released because there was no evidence. He pled guilty to that murder in 2012.
Oh, wow.
Ellen Hover was killed in 1977, and her remains were found in 1978. And that's when he was questioned by the FBI and released due to lack of evidence. Then later that year, 1978, he appeared as Bachelor #1 on the TV game show The Dating Game.
Now, what year was that again?
1978. Why don't you describe what The Dating Game is for our listeners, Chelle, who might not be old enough to remember it?
Now, for all of you kiddos out there, The Dating Game was like, at the time, it seemed like a fun game. I watched it as a kid. It was very 70s themed, and there'd be either a bachelor or a bachelorette on one panel with like the host guy. And then on the other side of the wall were 3 prospective daters. So if it was like one girl with the host, it'd be like 3 guys. And if it was like a guy with the host, then it'd be like 3 girls. You get the idea.
Yeah, and the ones behind the screen were always called like Bachelor number one, Bachelor number
Bachelor
two.
number two and Bachelor number three. So this guy
Right.
was Bachelor number one, you said?
This guy was Bachelor number one.
For any of you guys that have watched old game shows that are kind of like Layla and I's age, Chuck Barris was like the host, which at the time was like a very good looking TV guy. But so you would be on the show and Chuck Barris would be with the single person, the contestant, and they would have these questions and they would read these questions to the three people behind the wall. You know, like, what is your idea of a great date night? Silly questions like that.
Even better, they were questions that were designed full of sexual innuendo.
Right, right. To watch it now in the year 2022, to go back and watch old episodes of the Data Game, you'd laugh your ass off. The idea is that they'd ask these questions and kind of eliminate down to the person picking Bachelor 1, Bachelor 2, or Bachelor 3. And then the TV show kind of set you on like a all paid expense date, basically. So yeah, this guy was Bachelor number one.
So he was Bachelor number one behind the screen, and the host described him as a successful photographer. Between takes, you might find him skydiving or motorcycling. So they gave him like this really wild
Adventurous
persona,
guy.
right? And of course, his answers to things were super racy. I believe one of the questions was, if you were a food, what would you be? And he's like, well, everyone calls me the banana. Why don't you peel me or something like that?
Are you sure? Well, does that work for guys?
Apparently
like,
it
does that
did.
actually work for guys?
This is 1978. It's a TV game show designed to be corny and sexual. I mean,
I'm a
come
banana,
on.
come peel me. If that ain't the pickup line of the century.
Apparently his banana won him the date with the girl. So our killer, who
Please,
was already
please
killed.
tell me he didn't kill her, did he? He didn't kill our contestant, did he?
Well, no, he did not. They didn't even go on the date. They met backstage and she decided he was too creepy to go on a date with, and she refused to go on the date with him.
Wait, I saw him on a wanted poster. I ain't going on a date with him.
I wish. By one account, he was seen on that show by Orange County police officers, and that's one of the things that helped them find him, but they didn't catch him yet, because in June of 1979, he's still in California.
Wow.
Only now he goes to Huntington Beach Pier, up here in California, and he sees two young girls, two 12-year-old girls playing, doing cartwheels in the sand. And he goes up to them and offers to take their photographs, says that he's taking photographs for portfolio, which is something he did quite a bit with people and a lot of his victims.
Those were his trophies. The pictures were his trophies. Is that basically what it was?
You are not far off, Chelle, my little investigator. He's taking pictures of these girls and tries to get them to go away with him when thankfully a good Samaritan sees what's going on and comes over. Even though she didn't know the girls, she wanted to make sure everything was okay. And she kind of was like putting herself between the girls and this man, and he took off. And the girls were kind of spooked and decided to leave. And one of the girls, Robin Samso, 12-year-old Robin Samso, had to get to ballet class. So her best friend offered to allow her to ride her bike and said, go straight there and don't stop for anyone, because they were spooked about this encounter. Robin Samso never made it to ballet class.
Didn't listen to her friends, did she?
Nobody knows exactly how he got to her, but 12 days later, her body was found in a remote ravine. The ballet
Do
class...
they know it was him?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not trying to give the guy all benefit of the doubt and stuff, but, you know, unfortunately, there's sick people out there. Do they know it was him?
He was seen leading her up the ravine, and there is other evidence as well, that DNA evidence as well, that ties him to her, as well as one of the things he took as trophies were earrings, and he had her earrings.
Oh.
So she didn't make it to the ballet lesson. The teacher called the parents and said she'd never gotten there. And the parents were already worried because she hadn't come home and it was late. And they looked and looked and looked for her. Her brother describes just searching for her for hours and unceasingly. She was found by a Forest Service worker in a remote ravine 12 days later, quite a bit of ways. I believe it was over 10 miles or more from where she had last been seen. And a kitchen knife was found nearby.
So he basically liked younger girls. preteen, teenage girls, early 20s. So like preteen to 20s.
Yeah, in early 20s, mid to late 20s as well. He had a wide range. So after her body was found and her friend described the meeting with Alcala, they put out a search for him, and he was brought in and arrested in July in 1979 for the abduction and murder of poor little 12-year-old Robin Samso. And he was convicted on those charges in 1980. Interestingly, during this trial, it came out that he had a storage locker in Seattle. And when they searched that storage locker, they found a trove of over 1,000 photographs of young women and men, some of them in very sexually explicit positions, and some of them were his victims, known victims. They also found a silk bag full of earrings, including the earrings that had been on Robin Samso when she went missing.
Wow.
Many of those photographs have been connected to his victims. We'll talk more about those photographs a little bit later. But 4 years after his conviction in 1980, it was overturned because supposedly the jury had been tainted by being improperly told about his prior record.
Oh my God.
Then they tried him again and got it in 1986 and got a second guilty verdict. But this was again overturned. Each time he's been sentenced to death for this. And this 1986 guilty verdict was overturned again in 2001. This time they said that the prosecutors had hypnotized the Forest Service worker that had found Samso's body.
What? Hypnotized him?
Yeah.
First of all, have you met someone who's worked for the Forest Service? Because they're not the type that are susceptible to being hypnotized.
Right. At the time, unrelated, but a woman's body was discovered in 1982 by a rancher in a big open field in Wyoming, and she had been murdered.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but how did they avoid the whole double jeopardy thing as well?
I'm not exactly sure, but depending on how the case is like
tried,
how it's dismissed, I guess, it will depend on whether you can retry them or not. I know there are some cases where you can. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not entirely sure, but we could probably look that up or have a lawyer contact us and let us know. But the last overturning, when that charge was overturned in 1986, actually worked against Rodney Alcala in the end.
How?
Because by that time, DNA technology and other forensics had caught up, and they had taken a sample of his DNA during his prior convictions, and they used that DNA and ran it through a database and found 4 victims that he had killed, that he had left semen or saliva on.
Lesson learned is nowadays only date somebody who has submitted their information to Ancestry DNA.
Right? So those 4 victims, right? I laugh, but that's a good idea.
Right?
The 4 victims that they used his DNA to match were Jill Barcombe, 18, who was a runaway that had been found like rolled up into a ball and shoved into a Los Angeles ravine in 1977. Georgia Wickstead, who was 27, who'd been beaten to death in her apartment in 1977. Charlotte Lamb was 31, who'd been raped, strangled, and left in the laundry room of her apartment complex in El Segundo in 1978. And Jill Parenteau, 21, who was killed in her apartment. He's strangled, raped, bit, and beat.
What was the motive? What was the motive? Does anybody know why was he doing this?
Nobody knows. He liked the control. He had a similar manner of killing them. He would offer to take their photographs. He would take them to a secluded place and take their photographs. And then he would beat them. He would bite them, and he would strangle them. Some of his survivors said that he liked to strangle them to the point where they would almost die and rape them. And then when they came back to, then he would strangle them and kill them again. So he liked to torture them.
Was this like a sex game?
Very much so. Very much so. It would definitely involve sex and power for him. He would then take their earrings and pose them usually in carefully chosen positions and take their pictures. So some of the earrings, they also tested the earrings that they had found in that Seattle locker during one of his prior trials, and they found DNA that matched Charlotte Lamb. So now they're able to use better technology to tie him to many, many more crimes. In 2003, they redid the trial again. Again, I'm not sure how, but they redid the trial again for killing and abducting Robin Samso. They had these 4 new victims that they had DNA evidence that they could tie him to. During this 2003 trial, Alcala decided to act as his own attorney.
That always works out well for people.
Exactly. And by act, I kind of mean that literally because he adopted a deeper voice when he would be his attorney and ask himself questions. And then he would answer.
Did he think he was on like Law and Order?
Maybe, I don't know. And then he would answer himself in his normal voice. And a lot of these questions apparently involved his long flowing hair. I don't know.
What did he ask himself? Like what kind of conditioner he used?
I'm not sure, but some talked about the extensive questions that he asked himself about his hair. But he had absurd, basically, he said he didn't remember doing it and he couldn't have done it because he wasn't there. Wasn't me, was his defense. And for his closing statement, you remember that song, the Arlo Guthrie song, Alice's Restaurant, that really long, rambling story?
I do.
There's a part in the story where the narrator is trying to get out of the draft. And so they try to pretend to be crazy, right? And they go on about kill, 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 and eating bodies, and I'm going to kill all these people.
Yep.
He played that part in court as part of his closing statement.
What? Was he smoking our weed?
I wish, because I don't know, I'm not going to say that wouldn't have made him a crazy murderous motherfucker, but maybe it wouldn't have made him a murderous motherfucker. Yeah, he played that part of the song. And
I hope he was convicted.
Absolutely. All 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to death again. And this time it's stuck.
Did they had the death penalty there?
Yes. Later it was the governor
eradicated it or whatever.
Yeah, the governor stopped the death penalty here in California, but he remained in prison. The motherfucker died last year, July.
I was just going to ask you. I was just going to ask you if he was still alive or not. So he's dead now?
He's dead, thankfully.
Good.
Rotten hell. So back to the pictures that they found in that locker.
Uh-huh.
Over 900 of them were too explicit to release, but they've used the pictures to identify several more victims. And they've released 120 of his photographs. March 2010, the Huntington Beach, California Department and the New York City Police Departments released 120 of his photos online to try and get the public's help in identifying these potential other victims, because they know of a bunch of victims and they're pretty sure there's more. After they released the ones that they could, 21 people came forward and said, hey, I'm in those pictures and I'm okay. And some of them had creepy stories to recount. Some of them didn't.
That's crazy.
6 families came forward and said, one of those people is someone I loved that disappeared and I don't know what happened.
Wow.
And so those are more than likely 6 people that he had murdered that they just haven't found yet.
Wow. And he never alluded to...
One other, remember the body that I mentioned that had been found in 1982?
Yes.
That was determined when those pictures were released. A woman, Kathy Thornton, who had been looking for her sister Christine for 40 years, saw those pictures and said, that's my sister. And they were able to use her DNA to match it to the body that they had found in Wyoming. It was the body of Christine Thornton, who in 1977 had run away with her boyfriend, but they had gotten in a fight. And she met up with Alcala, who said he was going to take her picture. And he took her out to this remote field in Wyoming and raped and murdered and left her there. Her body wasn't found until like 1982. But it was determined because of those pictures that he was the one that had killed her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they still have these pictures online. There are still quite a few pictures that they're trying to find. Some estimates say that he's killed 50 to 150 people, and
Holy
they just
shit.
haven't found them all. I'll post a link to the pictures. They're haunting, but you can see the pictures that he took. Hopefully most of them are people that just went about their lives and, are fine, but more than likely some of them...
That definitely calls for one of those stupid Facebook marked safe from type posts.
Like marked safe from the dating game killer 2022.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously, because if there's that many pictures, there could be that many families who don't know whatever happened to their loved one.
Yeah, and how many people died without ever seeing these pictures, and so there's no one to speak for them, and their loved ones died before they could ever know.
Right. So there's no immediate family to quote unquote claim that picture. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Someone some of those people may not have any living relatives to claim them, to recognize them. That's sad.
That's sad.
But I will put the pictures, links to the pictures up so that you can scroll through them. Maybe you'll recognize a long lost relative. But that's my sad story for today. That's my true crime.
That's sad. That's actually sad. And I'm glad he rotted in jail finally. Well deserved.
May he be removed from the wheel of reincarnation. May he come back as a bug and be squished multiple times.
May his soul be caught by the Jersey Devil in the Puckwudgies.
Oh, there you go. They can have him. They can play with him for sure. But yeah, sad, scary stories today, Chelle. I'm going to smoke a little pot and try to find some zen in this springtime season.
Well, get your zen, smoke your weed, and we'll get back here again next week for another awesome episode of the Stoned Witches Hour. Glad everybody could join us today. And again, if you have any sighting stories of the Jersey Devil, shoot us an email. We definitely want to hear about it. And yeah, get high, get stoned. Happy May.
Yeah, happy spring. Can't wait for summer. You know, get stony, get happy, get out. Maybe I'll roll a bunch of joints. I'll go on a nice little hike, enjoy the new grass and the sunshine, and try to remember that, you know, there's lots of wonderful things in this world.
There is. I'm going to grab a bowl and I'm going to head to the beach and smoke on the sand.
Oh, that sounds lovely. All right. Stay high, stay happy, and we'll see you next time on the Stoned Witches Hour.
Keep it spooky.
Thanks for listening to the Stoned Witches Hour with Chelle and Layla. If you like what you heard, please rate us and consider giving us a review. It really helps the show out, and we'll definitely take a toke of the kindest bud in your honor.